boys and girls. This is Lisa Kropp, the director of the library, and I wanted to share a story with you today that I used to read to my two boys when they were little, and it's called Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming, and the pictures are by G. Brian Karras, and it was one of our favorite books when they were little. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables, and of gobbling them all up. But he never once tried it until this spring, said Mr. McGreely. This spring, by golly, I'm going to plant a garden. Did you know we have a garden at the library? So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes. Yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies. But one night, when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 Pat, Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. Look at that, they're eating all of his lettuce. Oh no. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts, he was angry. So he built a small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, now no bunny can get into my garden. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and Tippy, 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 Pat, spring, hurdle, dash, 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 oh no, Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. Those rabbits came back. Well, the next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Humph, he humphed. Those flop ears will never get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. Look at that. He built a huge, big wall behind the fence. Do you think the bunnies are going to come through? The sun went down, and the moon came up, and Tippy, 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 Pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, scratch, scratch. Spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. Those bunnies came back. They did it. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. Ha ha, he snorted. Those puffed tails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. Look at that. He means business. And the sun went down, and the moon came up, and Tippy, 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 Pat, dive paddle, splash, splash, splash. Dig, scrabble, scratch, scratch, scratch. Spring, hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Oh no, they got through. Muncha, Muncha, Muncha. Those rabbits are pretty smart. Well, as you can expect, the next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his chopped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. So he hammered and blocked, sawed and stocked, drilled and filled and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep, wet trench, outside of the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure, he exclaimed. They can't get through it, they can't get under it, and they can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden now. What do you think? Do you think those bunnies are smarter than him? The sun went down and the moon came up, and Tippy, Tippy, stop! The 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy, 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. They couldn't get in. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. He figures he did it, right? I beat the bunnies. He whooped and did a jiggly-wiggly victory dance, and then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. Ah, sighed Mr. Greeley, at last. Smacking his lips, he picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. But look at his basket. Do you see something else in his basket there? Uh-oh. Muncha, Muncha, Muncha! The bunnies were in his basket! The end. And look, it looks like Mr. McGreely learned how to share. So that was one of my favorite stories in my house. I hope you enjoyed it and have fun reading with your families. Thank you.